The winning blueprint presents.
All right, the next game sees the Houston Texans traveling out to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is, again, a divisional matchup. Houston being 0-1, Jacksonville 0-1. Jacksonville was literally seconds away from their first victory of the season, and they had victory snatched from them by the Minnesota Vikings. But it was a good game by the Jacksonville Jaguars last week, and so I think that they can build upon that game. Blaine Gabbert was solid, and Maurice Jones-Drew was in his first game back from his holdout, and so he was just basically getting into football shape. They weren't able to utilize him as much as they would like to. With Rashad Jennings being banged up, they're going to have no choice but to use MJD in the fashion that they would normally use him, which is the feature back. And I think that he'll be more conditioned in this second game. And the Jaguars are going to come in to this game looking to upset the Houston Texans and upset the alignment of AFC South. And if you're the Texans, this game is all about establishing your superiority in this division. There's no one in this division that can challenge you for this division crown. You need to go into Jacksonville, start the game off fast, early on, and let them know that you're the dominant team. Come out, establish the run game with Arian Foster, who has been banged up, and he did not look totally right in that first game against the Dolphins. His numbers bear that out. He had 21 carries for only 78 yards. Those are not Arian Foster-like numbers. He did, however, find his way into the end zone twice. And so from that standpoint, you can be encouraged. But they need to get this running game back on track. Arian Foster and Ben Tate in the running game. They need to establish this game early on against this Jacksonville Jaguars defense, who gave up some yardage and some good runs to Adrian Peterson and that Minnesota Vikings offense. And so they can be ran on. And if you're the Texans, you need to exploit that early on in this ball game. Run the ball, run it efficiently, run it effectively, set up play action fake as only the Texans can, and then find Andre Johnson running down the middle of the field one-on-one with a safety or with a corner, and exploit that matchup as well. Have this game turn ugly quick if you're the Texans. You don't want the Jacksonville Jaguars to hang around, gain confidence, and feel like they can win this football game. You don't want this to be a dangerous game. You want this to be a game where you establish your dominance in the division against a team that's in the lower tier of this division. Show them that they're not ready to compete with you in this division. Notch another victory. And like I said, if you're the Texans, you want to win as many games as possible, because barring a string of devastating and catastrophic injuries to your football team, you're going to make the playoffs. You're going to win the AFC South. There's not a question of if you're going to the playoffs. It's where you will be seated. You want to be seated as high as possible. And for that to happen, you need to stack up wins like bricks. Just stack them up. And when the season is done, see how many bricks you have stacked up. Is it enough to build you a house that you can camp in and sleep in for the first week of the playoffs? You want to have a bye week. You hear about momentum and teams winning the Super Bowl who played in the first week. Forget all of that. The path to the Super Bowl is easiest when you have a bye week. You only have to win 2 games to get you to the Super Bowl. And so if you're the Texans, it's games like these that are going to help you pad your record and get you to 12-4, get you to 13-3, get you to 11-5. You need to win games like this. And it is on the road. It is a divisional opponent. And so a lot of times division games are tough. That's family business. And so it's not going to be an easy game just looking at it. But you need to establish yourself as the superior team in this matchup, as the superior team in this division. And teams like the Colts and the Jaguars need to know that they don't have a chance against you in this division. And this is Matt Schaub's first game after receiving a nice contract extension to pay him, starters money essentially in the league. And let's see what he does his first game after being compensated for being a very, very efficient and consistent and upper half of the league quarterback. He throws for over 4,000 yards routinely. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He runs this Houston Texans offense efficiently. And so he did deserve this payday. Let's see what he does now that he's received it. And this Texans team needs to take the next step to being dominant. They're no longer the hunter. They're now the hunted, and they need to take on this role, embrace it, and become good at going to opposing team stadiums and quieting the crowd and getting the job done. And let's see if they can take that step this weekend against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe they will. I have the Houston Texans going to Jacksonville and getting the job done 26-17 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you're the Jaguars, your mission is simple. Run the football. Limit the amount of times this Houston Texans offense gets to touch the football. Control time of possession. Limit mistakes on the offensive end. And score points when you get the ball. Even if it's a field goal, put points on the board. Limit the amount of time the Texans touch the football. Give yourself a chance to win this football game. The lower scoring this game is, the better shot you have of winning. If this game gets close to the 30s, mid-20s, you limit your chance because that's not the type of offense that you have proven to be. And not saying that you can't. You scored 20 points last week. But you need to find a way to limit the amount of points scored, limit the amount of possessions that the Texans have. But I just don't see this Jacksonville Jaguars team being good enough to get it done against this Houston Texans team. And that would take the Texans to 2-0, and that would drop the Jaguars down to 0-2. Here is another matchup between two 0-1 teams looking to avoid 0-2. This seems to be a common theme of the week thus far, as the Oakland Raiders travel out to Miami to take on the Dolphins. And this is a big one for the Oakland Raiders because they had a lackluster performance on Monday against the San Diego Chargers, lost their first game, their home opener. And that division is not wide open because I think the Broncos are the dominant team in that division with the emergence of Peyton Manning. I think that the Broncos will win that division, but you don't know yet. The Broncos aren't out of the woods yet. Peyton Manning is back, but we don't know if he'll be around for the whole season. You can't just assume because he played one game that he's back and nothing's going to happen. He won't have any setbacks. You don't know what this Denver Broncos team is going to be if Peyton Manning goes down. And so you need to be right there waiting in the weeds to strike if, in fact, the Broncos are not the team that everyone thinks they are. So if you're the Raiders, you need to get on the board in the win column. You need to find a way to win a ball game and kind of start getting this ship righted in Oakland. And so This is a new regime in Oakland, and so they have a lot of things that they need to have addressed. And the first thing is this offense. This offense was underwhelming in that Monday night performance. They didn't do anything catastrophically bad. They weren't egregious on the offensive, and they just weren't a good offensive football team. They didn't extend drives. They didn't pick up first downs. They didn't run the ball effectively with their best weapon, Darren McFadden. Carson Palmer, he was sharp in the short passing game, but they didn't threaten the San Diego Chargers down the field. Denarius Moore will return this weekend. He will help in that regard. Jacoby Ford could be out for the whole entire season. He just elected to have surgery on his foot, and so you don't know if you're going to get his services back at all this season. And so you have to prepare for life without Jacoby Ford and possibly Denarius Moore. I've talked about the fact that these two players miss a lot of time for the Raiders, and so they need to find ways to get other guys involved, get them comfortable playing football without the services of Denarius Moore and Jacoby Ford, because that is a realistic possibility for this Raiders football team. These are guys that get injured quite often, and so if they're not there, you have to have other guys step up, and so these guys need to be ready at a moment's notice to come in and be able to produce for this Raiders offense. And they weren't able to do that on Monday, and so the Dolphins they're going to look to try and limit this Raiders offense. The first thing on their agenda on the defensive side of football needs to be stop the run, because the Raiders are a run-dominant football team. If they can run the football and establish the running game, everything predicates off of that. Everything feeds off of that. Then they become a dangerous team on the offensive side of football. You stop the run, make them a one-dimensional team, then you have the Raiders trying to do what they did on Monday, which is nickel and dime their way down the field. And that's to your benefit, because you can only nickel and dime for so long before teams make adjustments, and then you have to go down the field, and the Raiders just can't do that right now. Also, looking at the Dolphins, you need to look at Ryan Tannehill and this young Dolphins offense. They scare no one with their receivers. Their tight end group leaves a lot left to be desired. And so this Dolphins offense has a long way to go, and Ryan Tannehill is at the helm, and he struggled last week. He threw 3 interceptions, had the ball tipped several times at the line of scrimmage. He has to be better at the quarterback position. He has to continue to progress and mature as a quarterback, learn the nuances of the NFL game. I think he got a lesson in throwing over the defense instead of throwing at a three-quarter angle, and instead of staring down his targets and giving away and tipping off his release time. He realizes that he has to be smarter with the football, throw over the top of the defense, and he has to throw through lanes. He can't throw right into defenders like they're not there. And so he got a lesson last week, and as a rookie, that's what you want to do. You want to take lessons that you learn and don't repeat the same mistakes and get better as a quarterback. And so they're looking for him to mature in his second game in the NFL. They have to run the football, though. I said this time and time again about all the other rookie quarterbacks. I've said it about most of the offenses that I've spoke about. You have to run the football. Running the football is the best friend of any quarterback, because the running game takes a lot of pressure off of the passing game, and it opens avenues for you to excel in the passing game through play action fake. Gives you more time. Teams can't divulge that extra guy in the box, or they have to divulge that extra man in the box to stop the running game, which makes it easier to pass in the secondary. And so it's important for the Dolphins to try to establish the running game. Both of these teams are struggling right now. Both of these teams are going to struggle throughout the course of this season. I don't think that either one of these teams are playoff teams. And so this is going to be a tightly contested football game between two teams who struggle to score points. And the Raiders don't have the weapons right now to score the amount of points that they think that they should be scoring. And they need to find ways to score, because Jacoby Ford is not returning anytime soon. Denarius Moore is just coming back and they have to slowly work him back. If they push him too hard, he could be back on the shelf for 3 or 4 weeks. So you're not going to get, a lot of plays out of Denarius Moore this week. He's been limited in practice all week long, and so you have to take it slow with him. So again, this Raiders offense isn't going to be explosive again this week. They're just looking to score more points than the Miami Dolphins. And I think that's what they'll do against this Dolphins team who struggles to score and who needs to find a way to force turnovers, get short fields for their offense, and make the Raiders one-dimensional so that they can force Carson Palmer into mistakes and possibly turn those mistakes into points. All that being said, I still see the Raiders coming out on top against a rookie quarterback. That defense for the Raiders played exceptionally well, I thought, against Phillip Rivers and that San Diego Chargers offense. They limited the Chargers on the scoreboard, and I thought they stood up in several instances where that special teams let them down. I thought they stood up, stiffened, and didn't allow the Chargers in the end zone, forced them to kick field goals, and gave themselves a chance to stay in that ball game and have a chance to come back. And I think that they'll do the same against this Dolphins offense, who is not nearly as efficient as the Chargers offense. And so I see the Raiders going into Miami and coming out with the victory 19-16, which will run their record to 1-1 and will knock the Dolphins down to 0-2. Our next matchup will be the first that we discuss of two teams looking to move to 2-0 after winning their first game of the season. And it sees the Arizona Cardinals traveling to New England to take on the 1-0 New England Patriots. And this is an interesting matchup, and I always say that when the Cardinals are involved because for some reason I have some sort of affinity for the Arizona Cardinals in their situation. Maybe it's because I like Larry Fitzgerald so much and I want to see him do well. Maybe it's because they're so dysfunctional at the quarterback position. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I always seem to keep one eye on the Arizona Cardinals. And this week is just as big as any week for the Cardinals because this is the first start for Kevin Kolb of the 2012 season, and this is his chance. This is it for him. I've already said it. I'm going to continue to say it. This is it for Kevin Kolb as a starter, not only for the Arizona Cardinals, but possibly and potentially in the National Football League. Even if it doesn't work out of Arizona, he'll get another job somewhere, but it'll be in a backup capacity. He won't be a starter for the next team that he goes to because this will be it for him in Arizona if he can't get it done as this team's starter this season. And so this is his chance. With Skelton going down with an injury, I think they'll look to Kevin Kolb to try and solidify and lock down this quarterback position for the Arizona Cardinals. They need stability at the quarterback position. This musical chairs that they've been playing at the quarterback position for the last 2 seasons isn't going to get it done. And if there's one position on your team that needs to be stable and have someone be the unquestioned leader, it's the quarterback position. And so the Cardinals are looking for that. And they need Kevin Kolb to provide that for them. They're paying him the money to be the starter. He needs to live up to the life of that contract. And so they're looking for big things for Kevin Kolb. And this is the first step in the direction that the Cardinals are hoping is going to be the right direction for this Cardinals offense and for Kevin Kolb. And he's going up against a defense that is revamped, that is young, and that in week 1 looked like a defense that was going to cause problems for opposing offenses in the 2012 season. They were dominant against Tennessee. They limited Tennessee to 13 points. They got after Jake Locker, sacked him, harassed him, forced him into turnovers, forced a fumble that ended up going in a score for the Patriots defense. And they were all over the field last week. And so this Patriots defense looks to be much improved, but it was 1 week. We need to see more. And if the Patriots want to establish themselves as a defense to be reckoned with, they'll need to be able to consume and disrupt offenses like the Arizona Cardinals, who have a quarterback position that's in transition, that's in constant flux. And so they need to be able to establish themselves against teams like the Cardinals, who come into the game looking to solidify their own quarterback position. And so if you're the Patriots defense, you're looking to come in, confuse Kevin Kolb, make him uncomfortable and jittery in the pocket, force him into ill-advised throws, force him to turn over the football as he did in the preseason, as he did last year, and make him look bad and continue to look good as a defense. On the offensive side of the ball, the Patriots are looking to gain more continuity. And new pieces, Brandon Lloyd and guys along that offensive line who weren't there last year, are looking to come in and help this offense get back to the level that they played at last year, where they were racking up points on opposing defenses. Brandon Lloyd just missed out on a few big plays with Brady last week. They'll look to try to get in sync with each other against these Cardinals. Brady is starting to heat up with his diamond duo tight end group, and Wes Welker, you know he's going to get involved here soon, and so this Patriots offense is going to start clicking sooner or later. And what was interesting about the Patriots last week is that they were able to run the football with Stephen Ridley. He went well over 100 yards, and they looked impressive running the football. They're going to look to continue to do that as well, because they want to stay balanced on the offensive side of the ball. And if they can take some of the pressure off of Brady in that passing game, because a lot of what the Patriots did in the past was short passing game served as a running game. If they can actually run the football, that will allow Brady to work the intermediate to deeper routes off of the running game and allow them to be that much more dangerous in the passing game. And so I think that the Cardinals have a long way to go before they can compete with a team like the Patriots. If this was in Arizona at the University of Phoenix Stadium, this would be a different story. That's a tough place to play, but this is not. This is in New England, which has been a house of horrors for the Arizona Cardinals. If you remember the last time they were there in that Super Bowl season, they traveled to New England late on in that season and got demolished in the snow against these Patriots. And so this has not been a friendly place to the Arizona Cardinals. So I think it will continue to be a house of horrors for the Arizona Cardinals. I just can't see them competing with a team the caliber of the Patriots. And so I don't know if Cobb will look as good as he did in that one drive he had last week against the Seattle Seahawks. But nonetheless, I see the New England Patriots dominating the Arizona Cardinals in this matchup to the tune of 30-13. I just can't see the Cardinals being able to keep up with the pace of this Patriots offense. And I see this defense of the Patriots getting the Cobb, forcing the issue, getting pressure on him, and forcing him into mistakes. If Cobb can be calm in that pocket, if the Cardinals can find a way to run the football, establish the run, and keep the Patriots defense off balance, stay out of third and long where the Patriots can bend their ears back and come after him. If they can stay ahead of the down and distance and move the ball down the field and pick up first downs, this could be a very different game than I think it's going to be. But I just don't see it happening on the road against a team with a superior offense. I just see the Cardinals folding under the pressure of the Patriots defense. And I see Kevin Kolb making mistakes. And I see them not limiting the Patriots on the offensive side of the football. And the Patriots notching their second victory of the season, going to 2-0. Meanwhile, the Cardinals drop their first one and go to 1-1. All right, our next game takes us out to New York, where the Giants will be waiting on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is a big one for the Giants. It's the defending Super Bowl champions. They lost the first game at home. This is your second in a row at home. You only get 8 of these at home. You can't afford to drop your first 2. And I don't think they're a playoff team. I said that in the lab report and experiment that I did early on. And it didn't surprise me that they lost that first game. I thought they would win. And no team had lost that Thursday night opener, being the defending Super Bowl champions. And so I thought they would continue that trend. But it didn't surprise me that they lost that opener. They came in, thought the Cowboys were going to lay down for them. They didn't, and they made mistakes, and they paid for it. And so this Giants team has to come out and be better on the offensive side of the football. That's where it starts for the Giants. They need Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks to step up. And I said that in the lab report and experiment that we did on the Giants was we need to find out if Victor Cruz is for real. Hakeem Nicks, for the last 2 seasons, has been ascending as one of the better receivers in the league. And so I don't have any doubts about what Hakeem Nicks can do. But Victor Cruz came out of nowhere. He had a fairy tale and storybook season last year. He ended up being everybody's media darling toward the end of the season and into the offseason. And he had all these media opportunities, commercials and books and things of that nature. And so that's all fine and dandy. But now it's time to play football, and he needs to step up again. I feel confident that Victor Cruz is the guy last year that posted those big numbers, over 80 catches, over 1,400 yards receiving. I think he can be that big playmaking guy in that Giants offense like he was a year ago. He just has to focus. I thought in the first game he had lapses in concentration where he tried to make things happen before he caught the football. And he just has to focus. Look the ball in. And plays will come after you make the reception because you're a dynamic player. But just catch the football first. I look for him to rebound in this second game against Tampa Bay. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come into this game riding high after winning the initial game of Greg Schiano's coaching career. They got the Carolina Panthers at home. And they did a great job of game planning and scheming to stop that Panthers offense. And I thought they were the more aggressive and physical team in that game. And physically, they dominated the Carolina Panthers. And that's something that they'll need to do against these Giants. They need to bring that same mentality, that same attitude to this game against the Giants. Take it to them physically. Show that you are the more aggressive team. Come out, run the football with Doug Martin. Establish the running game early on, as they did against the Panthers. Take the pressure off of Josh Freeman. Allow him to come in and manage the game like you did against the Panthers. Josh Freeman did not do a lot in that game, but he didn't need to do a lot because the defense played so well. The special teams came up with a big block, and he was able to just take the team down the field and put points on the board, whether it was a field goal or a touchdown. He was able to help get points on the scoreboard, not turn the football over. They did everything solid last week, and that was enough to win. This week, they'll have to be a little bit better because solid won't be enough by itself to beat this Giants football team at home. This Giants team is hungry. They know what's at stake. They can't afford to go to 0-2 in a division that saw the Redskins, Cowboys, and Eagles all win in week 1. They need to keep pace with what's going on in the NFC East. And this division is fluid. The NFC East is going to be a division that's going to be up for grabs. You have no idea who's going to win this division. And so the Giants have as good a shot as anyone at winning this division. But they need to get a win. They need one in the worst way. And they know they can't afford to drop the first 2 at home to start this season. And so the Giants are going to come in, look to establish the running game. They need Ahmad Bradshaw. They need David Wilson to hold on to the football. They need Eli Manning to continue to be the quarterback that he's been over the last season. And even last week, he was solid. They need him to continue to be solid, but make throws when they're there. Don't turn the football over. This offense needs to be better than they were in week 1. And this defense, they didn't get the pressure that you thought they were going to get out of the gate. That Cowboys offensive line was much maligned in the preseason. They didn't get pressure. Guys like O.C. Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, Jason Pierre-Paul has to find a way to harass Josh Freeman, make him uncomfortable in that pocket. And Josh Freeman, just like any other quarterback in the league, when forced, when issue is pressed, when pressured, will turn the football over. We saw that last year. When Josh Freeman has pressure in his face, he will make mistakes. This Giants defense needs to get after him because that secondary, as we know and saw last week, this Giants secondary is not in the best of shape in terms of defending the pass. They have a lot of guys banged up. I think Cole is going to be able to go. I think that you'll see Prince Amukamara this week, but we still don't know what either of those guys really are. And so, aside from Corey Webster, there are question marks in that secondary on that at that corner position, and so they have to get pressure on the quarterback. It's imperative that they get to the quarterback, they get to Josh Freeman, and don't give him time to survey the field, find Mike Williams, find Vincent Jackson, find Dallas Clark. They need to get in his face, make him uncomfortable, and force him into errant throws. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is looking to establish themselves as a team that's going to play hard-nosed, tough football under Greg Schiano and run the football and not make mistakes. This Giants defense, their job is to force this Bucs offense into mistakes and take advantage of this young Bucs defense and find ways to get points on the scoreboard. I like what Greg Schiano is doing in Tampa Bay. I like what he has instilled in his players, a sense of toughness, a sense of tackling. They were sharp and crisp in their tackling against the Carolina Panthers a week ago. I like what he's come in and instilled in his team. However, they are not the better team in this game. They are not the more experienced team in this game. And for that reason, and those reasons alone, I think that the Giants are the more desperate team in this game as well. And I see the Giants being able to get a win at home against these Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 24-13. I look for both teams' records to be evened at 1-1 after it's all said and done, with the Giants notching their first victory of the season to go to 1-1, and the Bucs losing their first game to drop them to 1-1 on the season. And I think these teams, after this game, will be going in totally different directions. I think the Giants are going to be looking to try to establish themselves in the NFC East, looking to go upward, while I think the Bucs will be starting to come back down to earth and looking to find their way to the bottom and settle at that in that NFC South division, looking to settle towards the bottom of that division that's top heavy with New Orleans and Atlanta. But they've already beaten the Panthers, and so we'll see. This Bucs team is going to be a team worth watching this year because new head coach, new philosophy, and new players. They spent money in the offseason. They're looking to be much improved and get back to the team that won 10 games in 2010. And so let's keep an eye on these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They may be a bit better than we expected them to be coming into this season. So keep an eye on these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Moving right along, we find ourselves in the city of brotherly love, where the Baltimore Ravens will travel to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a great game on the Week 2 slate of games. The Eagles, who barely escaped with a win in Week 1 over the Browns, look to be better as a football team against this Baltimore Ravens team who absolutely lit it up Monday night against the Cincinnati Bengals. And so these are two teams who won their respective games in Week 1 in totally different fashions. The Eagles are lucky to be 1-0 right now. There's no other way to put it. Michael Vick threw 4 interceptions. They struggled mightily against a Cleveland Browns team who struggled themselves to score points, who did not score an offensive touchdown in that game, yet had every opportunity to win and just couldn't seal the deal. And so the Philadelphia Eagles have a lot of work to do. And they're a team that right now is questioning whether Michael Vick is the quarterback that's going to lead them to where they want to go. And I think it's too early in the season to be doing that. But Vic has shown the penchant to turn the football over. He did it last year quite a bit. He's done it this season thus far. And he, in addition to him turning the football over, he's a guy that doesn't stay healthy. And he took some shots in that Cleveland Browns game. And so the Eagles are only going to go as far as Michael Vick takes them. And so if he can't stay healthy, if he can't avoid the turnover monster, this Eagles team is going to find themselves in the same boat that they were in last year, where they got off to a slow start and then tried to dig themselves out of a hole that they dug themselves in early on in the season. And so they have to find a way to start this season off a lot better than they did last year. This is a tough Ravens team that they'll be going up against. One that seems to have gotten better on the offensive side of the football. And if this offense starts clicking with the way that they play defense in Baltimore, this is a scary team. And Joe Flacco, who you know that I have a great amount of respect for, as you should. If you don't, you need to start respecting Joe Flacco and what he brings to the table, because he has a very, very great skill set. One that is not matched by many quarterbacks in this league. He has the requisite height, the arm strength, the smarts, and the ball placement to be an elite quarterback in this league. And so if you don't respect Joe Flacco, you need to start respecting Joe Flacco and what he brings to the table, because he is the catalyst of this Baltimore Ravens offense. If he can continue to mature and get better within this offense, this Ravens team, along with Ray Rice and Anquan Bolden, Torrey Smith, Jacoby Jones, Ed Dixon, Dennis Pitta, they have weapons on the offensive side of the football. You know that defense is going to show up and play football. It's what they do. And so this Ravens team as a whole is better in 2012. If they can stay healthy, which Ed Reed already went down with an injury, he looks to be okay to play this week after straining his calf in the game against the Bengals after returning an interception for a touchdown. This Ravens defense is looking to find ways to get pressure on a quarterback. No Terrell Suggs means less pressure for this Ravens defense. And so I don't know if they're going to have to dial it up with blitzes, because they don't have individual guys who can just go one-on-one and win matchups like Terrell Suggs could for them. They're going to have to find ways to get pressure on the quarterback. But either way, their first mission as a defense is stop the run. Once you stop the run, then you force teams to be one-dimensional, and then you start teeing off on them and making them make mistakes in the passing game. And that's what they're going to look to do to the Philadelphia Eagles. Limit LaShawn McCoy in the running game. Make Michael Vick beat you with his arm, not his legs. And so this Ravens defense, I'm convinced, will be able to stop the run of the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to have their fair share of nice gains on this Ravens defense, because I thought that the Bengals had a couple of nice runs with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. But I think when it's all said and done, they're going to get the better of the matchup between the Eagles' run defense, the Eagles' rushing offense, and their run defense. And so if the Ravens can limit LaShawn McCoy, force Michael Vick to beat them with his arm, and if he does, you tip your imaginary cap to him. But if he can't, and I'm not sure if he can, then you tee off on him, force him into mistakes, take those mistakes and turn them into points. And I think that this Eagles defense, which I think is much improved, because I thought last year they had a lot of moving parts. They had a lot of guys out there on the field who weren't used to playing with each other. And so mistakes were being made because the communication wasn't quite where it needed to be. Guys weren't in spots where they needed to be, and they didn't trust each other because they didn't know where their defenders on defense were going to be. They didn't trust that guys were in spots and positions where they were supposed to be to make that defense work effectively. I think this year there's a level of trust that wasn't there last year. They're more consistent on the defensive side of football, and everybody has defined roles. Last year, Rogers Cromartie was splitting time with Asante Samuel, and Asante Samuel wanted to start. Dominique Rogers Cromartie wanted to start, and so there was a rift there, and their roles weren't defined on the football team, and so you didn't know who was playing where. I thought Nnamdi Asomugha came over, and his role wasn't defined on the defense. He had been used to playing man-to-man. They asked him to play in a lot of zone concepts. He struggled with that. And their safety position was in flux last year, and it was a mess. And so I think they're a lot more comfortable in the secondary. And so this Eagles defense is going to be better this year. They looked a lot better against the Browns, but it was the Browns. What did you expect them to do against the Browns? They're the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are not an offensive powerhouse in this league. And so the Eagles dominated a offense that they were supposed to dominate. This Ravens offense is going to pose a different challenge for this Eagles defense. Let's see how they rise to the occasion, if in fact they do rise to the occasion. I see the Ravens being the better team here, coming off of a big victory at home against a division rival. I see the Eagles reeling a bit, barely escaping the Cleveland Browns, and getting a victory there. Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin are both banged up. They're both going to play, but we don't know how effective they're going to be. This Eagles team, they're looking for a spark on the offensive side of the football. Let's see if anyone on that side of the ball steps up and gives it to them. All in all, though, I think the Ravens, being a better team overall, both on the offensive and defensive side of football as a whole, I think they're the better team. And so I think the Ravens are going to find a way to go into Philadelphia and come out with a 27-20 victory on the road against a tough opponent and run their record to 2-0 and drop the Eagles to 1-1. And this is going to be a game that's going to be tightly contested. I think turnovers is going to make the difference in this game. I think the team who makes the most mistakes is going to find themselves on the short end of the stick in this game. And in this league, when teams are so evenly matched as the Ravens and the Eagles are, it comes down to something as small as turnovers. And I think that the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to be victorious in this game. And I think that the Eagles have shown that when pressure is applied, they don't mind turning the football over. I think the Ravens have done a better job of securing the football over the years. And even to start out the season, I think that the Ravens are going to take care of the football more so than the Eagles will. And I think that's going to prove to be the difference as the Ravens get the victory. Okay, so this next matchup pits the 1-0 Dallas Cowboys against the Seattle Seahawks, who are 0-1 on the season. And the Cowboys are essentially playing with house money. Myself, and I know a lot of people around the league, did not expect the Cowboys to go into New York, take on the Giants, and come out of there with a victory. At this point, on a lot of people's predictions for the Cowboys on the outlook of this season, right now at this point, the Cowboys were 0-1 on a lot of people's sheets. And so, mine included. So they're playing with house money now. I said that if the Cowboys could find a way to play sound football, stay healthy, and get the ball to bounce their way, this was a 10-6, 11-5 football team. And thus far, they've already overcome one hurdle, which was the opening game. I thought the league put them in a precarious situation on the road. First game against the defending champs on that Thursday night. No road team had ever won that game. And the Cowboys defied the odds and went in and got a big victory. And now they need to build off of that. So honestly, the conventional thinking here is that a letdown is in order for the Cowboys. This is where the Cowboys in the past would have fallen flat on their face. So let's see if that actually happens, because the Cowboys should be riding high right now. That was a big victory on the road, divisional opponent, a team that kept you from going to the playoffs a season ago, a team that has stopped you from getting ultimately to the goal of going to the Super Bowl in numerous years. I mean, we could go all the way back to the 2007 season where the Cowboys were the best team in the NFC, posting a 13-3 mark, getting the #1 seed in the NFC, getting a bye week, coming off the bye, having the Giants come to Dallas and beat them in Texas Stadium. And so this is a Cowboys team that overcame one big obstacle early on in the season by defeating a team that has been a thorn in their side routinely for the last 5 years. And so you have to feel good about yourself if you're a Cowboys fan, a Cowboys player, brass, Jerry Jones. You feel great about the prospects of this season. But this is a dangerous trap game. Going to Seattle, a tough place to play, a dreary place that you can be low to sleep at. This is a good Seattle Seahawks defense that if Tony Romo is reckless with the football, they will make him pay. This secondary does make plays. They do pick off the football. They do make plays with the football once they get it in their hands. And so this is a trap game for the Cowboys. They need to come out focused at the task at hand and come out and get the job done. They can't come out lackadaisical, allow the Seattle Seahawks to control the tempo and dictate the pace of this football game, force the issue, get pressure on Tony Romo and force him into mistakes. They have to protect Tony Romo as they did solidly in that second half against the Giants, run the football as they did solidly in the second half against the Giants, control the tempo and pace of the game, and allow Tony Romo to be comfortable back there and work and survey the field and find the open receiver. You look at the Seattle Seahawks, and this is a team that is going through a transitional period of some sort, because anytime you change quarterbacks, you're a different football team. And they have essentially all the same parts, but if you have a different quarterback, then you're a different football team. And so they're starting rookie Russell Wilson, one of the starting 5, and he's going to get his second start, first at home in Seattle. And so I expect this crowd to be raucous. I expect this to be a very live environment, one that I could see the Seattle Seahawks thriving off of. And they need to get Marshawn Lynch more involved, get that running game off the ground, take the pressure off of Russell Wilson, allow him to make plays in spots when it calls for him to make plays. And I think that it's a key that they run the football with Marshawn Lynch, allow him to go beast mode, and allow Russell Wilson to go play action fake off of that and bootleg it. I want to see him get out of the pocket, use his athleticism, use his legs to create more plays for the Seattle Seahawks offense. And so I think it's imperative that they run the football on this stingy Cowboys defense, who didn't allow the Giants to run the ball at all in that first game. They have to find a way to create running lanes for Marshawn Lynch, loosen up this Cowboys defense, and allow Russell Wilson to be aggressive in the passing game, not only with his arm, but with his legs, more importantly. I think they need him to put pressure on this Cowboys defense with his legs as well to make more things happen. And the Seattle Seahawks defense is primed and poised to become an upper echelon defense in this league. And if they want people to believe that they're for real, if they want to make a statement on the NFL landscape, this is a perfect platform to do so. The Cowboys are a team that can score points, that can pick up yardage in chunks, And so they need to find a way to limit this Cowboys offense and get turnovers, get short fields for their offense, help Russell Wilson settle down and be smart with the football and not feel like he has to go out and win the football game. Allow him to play within the scheme of the offense. Allow him to play within the flow of the game and give yourself a chance to win. Now, I said all of that to say that I still think that the Cowboys are the better team here. And although they're playing with house money, although this is a trap game, although this is a game that I could easily see the Cowboys coming in and having a letdown in, I still think the Cowboys are the better team, and I think they're going to come out and prove that in this game against the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Cowboys get the victory 23-16 and run their record to 2-0 and really have a great start to their season, because now if you're the Cowboys and you find a way to get this win on the road against a tough Seattle Seahawks opponent and go to 2-0, you have started your season 2-0 on the road, and now you're going home for 2 consecutive games that you probably should be able to win. And if you're the Cowboys, having the chance to start your season 3 or 4-0 is something that, of course, if you're the Cowboys, you probably thought that you could do, but many around the league, including myself, did not think was possible. And so this Cowboys team has a chance to really get off to a great start, not only in the NFC East, but in the NFC in general. This is a Seattle Seahawks team that will be vying for a playoff spot come December. And so you want to win that head-to-head matchup against them in case later on down the line you have to go to tiebreakers to decide who's going to the playoffs. So this is a very, very big game in an early season matchup for the Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks, one that could determine later on down the line who will be going to the playoffs and who will be watching the playoffs. Talk about early season games of importance. You need not look any further than this matchup between the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jets are going to travel to Pittsburgh to take on these Steelers, who are desperate for a win. The Ravens looked awfully impressive on Monday night, and the Steelers, they dropped a game that honestly I thought they were supposed to lose. I did not have the Steelers winning in Denver, and so it did not come to me as any surprise or a shock that they lost. But now it's getting interesting. The Ravens look to be very impressive in that division. They won the division last year, and they don't seem to want to relinquish that AFC North title back to the Steelers. And so both teams have tough matchups this week, but the Steelers need to win this week more so than the Ravens do. The Ravens have already won a game. The Steelers have not. The Jets come into this game 1-0, and they're looking to establish themselves as a real player in the AFC. And if they want to do so, they need to find a way to win games like this against the Steelers on the road in a hostile environment against a team who really wants to get a W. And so if you're the Jets, you're looking to establish yourself in this AFC landscape as a team that can go anywhere at any time and get the job done, as you did in the 2010 season, as you did in the 2009 season, where you went on the road in the playoffs and got it done and got to the AFC championship game. You're looking to do that if you are the Jets. And so you need to establish that you can go on the road and beat quality football teams. You need to establish the fact that your team, although it's young, has the talent, has the toughness necessary, has the intestinal fortitude necessary to go on the road and beat a quality opponent on the road, one that you know come December and January are going to be in the discussion. And so if you're the Jets, this is a big game for your psyche, because you need to be able to know that if you have to go on the road in the playoffs, if you have to go on the road late in December and make a playoff run, you have to know that you can go on the road and dig deep and get a victory. And if you're head coach Rex Ryan, you want to be able to lean on this game and say, look, we've went into hostile environments before against teams in this league that are among the best, and we came out with a victory. We can beat anybody in this league. We're as good as anybody in this league. And this game against the Steelers is going to be a measuring stick for these New York Jets. You look at the Steelers, and they have a lot of questions on the offensive side of the football. So it's a team that is in a transitional period on offense. You look at the Steelers, they have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Haley. There's no more Hines Ward at receiver. Rashad Mendenhall is just coming back off of injury. This will be his first game if he, in fact, is able to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're trying to integrate Chris Rainey and his speed into the offense. Mike Wallace just came back off of his holdout, and he's getting his feet wet. Antonio Brown looks to be your best receiver out at the wide receiver position. And so you've got a lot of moving parts along this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. None more fluid than this offensive line, who year in and year out seems to be injured and banged up and shuffling around parts, trying to put together a patchwork offensive line to protect Ben Roethlisberger. This is the same thing that's happening this year. Already in week one, the Steelers find themselves shuffling around offensive linemen, trying to put together a unit that can keep Ben Roethlisberger upright. And I thought the Steelers did a great job in the opening game of coming out, protecting that offensive line and Ben Roethlisberger with the short passing game. However, you can't live with the short passing game all the time and think that you're going to get away with it. And I thought the Steelers need to do a better job of running the football to take pressure off of Ben Roethlisberger. And they need to go down the field more often to loosen up these defenses, to give them the space they need to run shorter passes and to run their offense. It's going to take some time for them to grasp fully and be competent in this Todd Haley offense. But they're taking strides to get there, and the addition of Rashad Mendenhall back to this offense will be key in helping them get back to being an offense that is competent and able to score points, enough points to win football games on a consistent basis. This defense, though, they are banged up. They are hurting right now. Troy Polamalu is injured. He may not play. James Harrison is injured. He probably won't go as well. And so you're talking about two of the more important pieces of this Pittsburgh Steelers defense maybe not being able to play in a game that is going to be of high importance early on in this regular season. And so if the Steelers don't have Polamalu and Harrison, they're going to have to find ways to get pressure on Mark Sanchez and force him into turnovers. The first thing that they're going to have to do, though, is stop the run with Sean Green and the Jets' running attack, because the Jets are going to look to run the football, establish the run game, and keep Mark Sanchez comfortable back there in the pocket, allow him to manage the game instead of trying to win the game on his own. Last week, I thought he was spectacular in making throws within the course of that offense and taking that team down the field and depositing drives for points. I thought they did a great job of getting in the end zone last week and making the Bills pay for turnovers and converting those turnovers into points. If the Steelers don't take care of the football and the Jets are able to move the ball down the field and score points, it could be a long day for the Pittsburgh Steelers minus two of their better defensive players. And so I think that the Steelers have to find a way to stop the running attack of the Jets, force Mark Sanchez to be their only answer on the offensive end, make him feel like he has to win the football game for the Jets, and then force him into turnovers with ill-advised throws and holding onto the ball in the pocket and forcing him to fumble and getting turnovers from this Jets offense. This Jets defense looked good against the Bills. I think that this is a revamped Jets defense. Again, LaRon Landry, Jeremiah Bell back at the safety positions. What's interesting for this Jets defense is that Darrelle Revis suffered a concussion last week against the Bills, and he is not going to play in this football game. That is going to change a lot of what Rex Ryan likes to do with this defense. He likes to be aggressive because he knows out wide he has Cromartie and Revis holding down both corner positions, and Wilson has emerged as a good slot corner, and so he feels like he can match up his corners against your receivers, come with 6 or 7 in the blitz, and get to your quarterback, force your quarterback to make bad decisions and take advantage of them with his cornerbacks. I don't know if he's going to be able to feel comfortable doing so without Revis's services out on the field. And so I don't know if Rex will be able to be as aggressive on defense without Darrelle Revis on the football field. And we're going to see how he tailors his defensive scheme, knowing that his best defensive player will not be on the football field. This is going to be a cat and mouse game, a lot of back and forth, give and take. And again, another one of these games is going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. I think that all in all, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're feeling the pressure mounting that you need to get this win. And I think the Jets are going to come into this game feeling a sense of false confidence that they're able to just put up points and make things happen on the offensive side of the football. I think this Steelers defense is going to bring them crashing back down to earth. And I think that the Steelers, minus Troy Polamalu, minus James Harrison, is going to find a way to get it done at home at Heinz Field against these New York Jets, 23-17. It's going to be a close ball game, but I think that this Steelers defense is going to find a way to force turnovers from this Jets offense and use those turnovers to get points and find a way to win this ball game 23-17, which will run both teams' records to 1-1. The Jets dropping to 1-1 and the Steelers going up to 1-1 and hanging around in the AFC North division. As we move on to the next game, the Tennessee Titans head out to San Diego to take on the Chargers. And quietly, the Chargers have a chance to start the season 2-0 against a Tennessee Titans team that I feel like is sort of reeling a little bit. Kenny Britt will be looking to come back here shortly, if not against this San Diego Chargers football team. Last game, Jake Locker went down with an injury. He'll be able to play this week, but how effective will he be? Chris Johnson did not get a lot of rushing attempts against the New England Patriots last week. They need him to be a bigger part of their offense. And so they have a lot of things going on right now in Tennessee. That defense was gashed in the run game a week ago against the New England Patriots. And the Patriots were able to execute on the offensive side of the football in both the running and the passing game. And so the Tennessee Titans have a lot of issues to address. Meanwhile, the Chargers, they had an impressive performance against the Oakland Raiders on Monday. Not impressive from the standpoint of scoring points, but impressive from the standpoint of being productive on both sides of the football. I thought that the defense got after the Oakland Raiders. They got after Carson Palmer later on in that game and kind of sealed that victory. And they stopped the run very well. They did not allow Darren McFadden to get off and get in a rhythm. And I thought that was the deciding factor in that game. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they did not perform at the standard that they would like, but it was good enough for a victory. But moving forward, Phillip Rivers, I thought, had an excellent game, but he needs help from his supporting cast. Antonio Gates, I thought, had a terrible game, and he needs to have a bounce-back performance against these Titans at home in San Diego's home opener. I think that Malcolm Floyd needs to be more of a factor in the passing game. I thought he had a solid game. And Meacham and these other additions, Eddie Royal, these guys have to step up. Phillip Rivers needs targets to throw the football to. Vincent Jackson is a big piece that is missing from the San Diego Chargers offense this year. And so they need to find ways to supplement that production that they got from Vincent Jackson over his San Diego Chargers tenure. And so guys like Meacham, who had a nice deep ball against the Raiders, they have to step up and be more consistent. Eddie Royal was non-existent in the game against the Raiders. They need guys to step up and make plays. And so this offense has a ways to go, but they're heading in the right direction. It all starts with Phillip Rivers, and I thought he looked great. He let the game come to him. He did not try to force the issue. He just needs to play within the offense, play within himself, and they'll be fine. If they can get Ryan Matthews back here shortly, get that running game on track, I think this is going to be a dangerous San Diego Chargers football team. And quietly, they could be hiding in the weeds, waiting for the Broncos to slip up in this AFC West division. The Titans, on the other hand, are looking for Jake Locker to assume the role of starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. He had a very good game, I thought, last week against the Patriots. He made the one bad throw that turned to be an interception in which he hurt himself looking to make the tackle on that play. But I thought he had a solid game. He looked good throwing the football inside the pocket. He was accurate, which was something I questioned about his game. And I thought he came out. He asserted himself well against that Patriots defense, who was being very aggressive, coming after him. I thought he played well under duress and made good throws, gave receivers chances to make plays after the catch by being accurate with the football. And this is something you want to see more of if you're a Titans fan from Jake Locker. And I think that if he can continue to mature and continue to go through the process of becoming a good NFL quarterback, he has the ability to take this Titans team to new heights. And it all starts with him and Chris Johnson on the offensive side of football. And Chris Johnson was non-existent in that game against the Patriots last week. They can't afford for Chris Johnson to have 11 carries for 4 yards. That's not Chris Johnson-like numbers. They need to feed him the football, make a concerted effort to get him the ball, and they need to make sure that he is successful. Open up holes, allow him to get in space, and allow him to do the things that made him one of the best and elite backs in all of football just 2 seasons ago. And so they need to get Chris Johnson involved, and they need to help augment that passing game that I thought was very effective last week against the Patriots. They need to score more points, and the defense needs to come alive. That defense was torched last week. They didn't step up at all. They didn't force turnovers. They didn't get the Patriots off the field. And I thought that they allowed the Patriots to dictate the pace of the game, and they let the Patriots take it to them, not only passing the ball as you would expect from the Patriots, but they allowed the Patriots to run the football on them and control the clock, control the pace of the game, and keep them off balance. They need to stop the run, force teams to in third and long, and get after the quarterback once having teams in third and long. They can't allow teams to get 4 on first down running the football, get 3 more on second down running the football, and then find themselves in 3rd and 3, which is a very manageable down and distance. Stop the football from being rushed on you. Get after the quarterback. Force punts. Get the ball back to your offense. Allow Jake Locker to get into a rhythm and feel comfortable in his second start in the 2012 season. The way to do that is to allow him to have more possessions, get his feet wet and continue to gain confidence by sustaining drives. The more drives he has, the more experience he gets, the more confident Jake Locker is going to become as a quarterback. So the Titans have their hands full with these San Diego Chargers, though. This Chargers team looks primed and ready to compete in this AFC West division. And this San Diego Chargers defense looks much improved with the addition of guys like Melvin Ingram through the draft. Corey Liuget, one of their early round draft picks from a year ago, looks to be settling in. And Jarrett Johnson, their free agent acquisition over from the Baltimore Ravens. Atari Bigby seems to be fitting in nicely at safety. These are all parts that are coming along and helping the San Diego Chargers defense look to be more formidable than they were a season ago. This offense is coming along slowly. Phillip Rivers is looking to get back to being one of the elite quarterbacks in all of the National Football League. I think his weapons around him need to step up. I think Antonio Gates needs to be better and needs to step up and be the Antonio Gates that he has been in the past and be a viable and reliable target for Phillip Rivers, especially in the red zone. They can get all these pieces and more to work out, get this running game on track. When Ryan Matthews comes back, this can be a dangerous San Diego Chargers team. I see the Chargers doing just enough to get their second win of the season, 26-22 over the Tennessee Titans. And I think that the Titans are taking steps in the right direction to becoming a solid football team. And if Jake Locker can continue to progress and mature as a starter, this Titans team will find themselves winning more and more ball games because they're going to play tough defense. They're going to be smart with the football. If Jake Locker can take care of the football, they're going to find themselves in ball games. But the first thing that they need to address is Chris Johnson. They have to get this running game going. Without Chris Johnson, then you're looking at putting the onus on Jake Locker. You're looking at having him shoulder the burden of having this football team win games. And you can't do that this young in his career. He needs help. Chris Johnson is that help, and they need to get him on track. But I think that the San Diego Chargers will be too much for the Tennessee Titans in this Week 2 matchup, as the San Diego Chargers defeat the Tennessee Titans 26-22, running their record to 2-0 and knocking the Tennessee Titans down to 0-2. Our last game on Sunday is of the Sunday night variety, and it's a big one in the NFC, where the Detroit Lions pack up their explosive offense and travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. This is a big one in the NFC. Last year, these two teams played each other in a tightly contested ball game that came down to the last play of the game, where the 49ers completed a pass to Delaney Walker in the end zone, which was a questionable call that was challenged, and the call was upheld on the field, and the Detroit Lions fell to the San Francisco 49ers 20-16 last year in Detroit, which was followed by the handshake that the two coaches got into a little skirmish at the end of the game because of Jim Harbaugh's, let's call it, aggressive handshake. He was excited. They won the game. Was a little bit extra with the handshake. And I just think that Jim Schwartz was a little sour about the loss. Took it out of context, got mad, and went overboard with it. And again, I think this Lions team is a reflection of Jim Schwartz. He's a hothead, and that's why this team gets as many personal foul and different assortment of penalties and is undisciplined on the field, because I think Jim Schwartz is that way, and they allow them to get away with a lot of shenanigans that they probably shouldn't be allowed to get away with. Titus Young headbutting corner Janoris Jenkins last week against the St. Louis Rams, and so they continue to do boneheaded things out on the football field, and I think it's a reflection of their head coach, Jim Schwartz. But nonetheless, this is going to be a big game in the NFC. These are two teams who made the playoffs a year ago, two teams who feel like they are among the best in the NFC. And so this is going to be a huge game in the NFC on Sunday night. And this is the second week in a row for the San Francisco 49ers that they'll be pitted up against a elite offense. And so this is the second week in a row we're going to see elite offense versus elite defense. Last week, elite defense won out. And most times, the elite defenses win out versus elite offenses. Defenses control the offense, dictate the game and the pace, slow the offense down. And what the 49ers did so beautifully last week was not only did they harass Aaron Rodgers and slow down that elite offense, but on the offensive side of the football, they controlled the pace of the game. They ran the football. And Alex Smith was flawless, only incompleting 6 passes, completing 2 touchdowns, not turning the football over. For like what seems like the 90th game in a row, the 49ers did not turn the football over. And so they have the recipe for success. They know what it takes for them to win football games. The 49ers know going into every game, we're going to try and limit the other team's offense to as least amount of points as possible, which you could say every team says that, but they actually go out on the field and do it. They limit teams to points on the scoreboard. They play sound defense, get turnovers, take those turnovers, convert them into points. Their offense doesn't turn the football over themselves. They run the football. Alex Smith goes out and manages the football game, doesn't turn it over, keeps the 49ers ahead of down and distance, moves the sticks, and when they get into the red zone, if they get close enough, he'll deposit it in or allow Frank Gore to run it in. If they don't, David Akers comes onto the field, kicks a field goal. They score points on possessions, whether it be a touchdown or 3, and they force the other team to try and keep pace because this defense that they're putting on the field is not going to allow the other team to score that often. And so this San Francisco 49ers football team has a recipe for success, and they follow it to a T. And so it's going to be hard for the Detroit Lions to come into San Francisco and come out with a victory. This is a sound San Francisco 49ers football team that does not beat themselves. I think that is the one quality and attribute of this team that makes them elite, is they do not beat themselves. They don't go into a football game, turn the football over, and make mistakes. They come in, they play sound football, they do everything that they need to do to win football games, and it starts by not beating themselves. They'll force you into mistakes, but they won't make mistakes of their own. And that's what makes this San Francisco 49ers football team so hard to beat, because they're sound in every facet of the game. They're sound on special teams. Hell, they're borderline elite on special teams with David Akers kicking field goals and Andy Lee at punter. They get it done on the special teams portion of the football game. You look at their offense. Their offense isn't explosive. It isn't the most beautiful offense to watch, but they get it done on offense. They run the football. Alex Smith uses the short passing game to matriculate the ball down the field and set the 49ers up in a scoring position. And so this 49ers offense gets it done. You know the defense is elite. They hold teams down. They force teams to punt the football. They stop them from scoring points on consecutive possessions. They go out on the football field with one thing in mind, and that's limiting teams' effectiveness, whether it be forcing them to punt, forcing a turnover, or just harassing them as they did against the Green Bay Packers. And this defense is great at what they do. And so at all facets of the game, this San Francisco 49ers team is solid. You look at the Detroit Lions, and they barely escaped at home against the St. Louis Rams with a victory. They did not look as polished as they should have on offense. And now, Stafford did not have a bad game numbers-wise, but you look at that one number that held him back from having a great game, and that was interceptions. He made bad decisions. He made bad throws, and it cost his team points on the scoreboard every single time, because Two of his interceptions that he had were inside Rams territory, one being at the goal line, the other being around the 25-yard line. So in both instances, they were already in field goal range, one time going in for a touchdown. And the other interception literally cost the Detroit Lions points because it got returned for a touchdown, pick six to Cortland Finnegan, a touchdown for the St. Louis Rams. And so all of his picks had an impact on the game as they either amounted to scoring opportunities for the Rams or took off potential scoring opportunities for the Detroit Lions. And so they have to be more efficient on the offensive side of the football. They have to find ways to get Calvin Johnson the ball out in space, get him the ball early and often, and they have to look to use that running game to just stay balanced. Not necessarily be dominant in the run game, but just stay balanced, keep teams honest, so that they can pass the football. And this defense needs to be aggressive, get after the quarterback. That's the key for this Lions defense. When they're getting after the quarterback, when they're forcing pressure and errant throws, this Detroit Lions defense is opportunistic and it forces turnovers, gets the ball back in the hands of their offense, and they're explosive. When this defense is not getting pressure on the quarterback, not stopping the run, they're vulnerable. They can be had on defense. And that team can't show up against this 49ers offense because although this 49ers offense is not explosive, they're good at what they do. And they take full advantage of any mistakes that you present. And if the Lions aren't gap disciplined, allowing Frank Gore to cut back, allowing Frank Gore to find holes to slither through, they're going to pay. Frank Gore is going to make them pay, and they're going to pay in the way of points. And again, this is a San Francisco 49ers team that does not give up a lot of points. So you do not want to find yourself in a game that the 49ers have already put up 23, 26 points in because it's hard to score points against this defense. As the Lions found out last year when they were only able to muster 16 points. So the key here is going to be that Lions offense versus this 49ers defense. And I think advantage goes to the 49ers on the defensive side of the football. On the road, in a hostile environment against this 49ers team, I just don't think the Lions are ready to go on the road against a team of the 49ers caliber and of the 49ers quality and get a road win. I just don't think that these Lions are ready to do that yet. It takes discipline. It takes efficiency. It takes your team being well coached to go on the road against an elite team and get a W. And I just don't think the Detroit Lions are any of those things right now. And so I have the San Francisco 49ers winning this football game 24-20 over the Detroit Lions, taking their record to 2-0 and dropping the Detroit Lions down to 1-1. And this is going to be a great matchup. I think it's a great Sunday night football game. And I'm hoping that this game puts a cherry on top of an excellent weekend for me, or an excellent Sunday. Get it? Sunday. I hope that this is the cherry on top of an excellent Sunday for me. And I think that I'm going to do well this week. I like my picks. I feel solid on all of them except maybe two. And again, I expect to be great this weekend. Not good, not average, great. And so that's going to do it. Throw it up. Touchdown. I just want to tack on this quick extra point. Look at these first games closely early on in the season, because every year teams fall into categories. You're either an elite team that's going to run away from the rest of the pack. You're either a bad team that's going to settle in at the bottom of your respective division, or you're a team that's going to be in the middle of the pack, just trying to find a way to stay around the NFL scene to see if you can sneak in as a wild card. And then you're going to have teams that are the surprise teams of the league that no one expected anything from, that are going to come out of nowhere and be good. And then you're going to have teams that are disappointing, that you expected big things from, and they're just not panning out. They're not the team that you thought they were going to be. And I think you're going to start to see that materialize in this week 2 of the regular season. This is when teams start to figure out who they are. Teams start to forge identities. And so it's going to be interesting to watch these games this weekend and see who's doing what and how, and who's doing what and why. And teams are getting off to starts that are uncharacteristic of them. And teams like the Packers, who for the last couple of seasons have started off well, have been offensively superior to most teams in the league. They have not looked like that right now. And so you look around, and it's hard early on in the season to make much of a lot of games. You look at Minnesota, they could easily be 2-0 after week 2. And so you think, oh, okay, the Vikings are 2-0, they might be solid. But they've played Jacksonville and Indianapolis. And they're not world beaters. Those aren't two teams that a lot of people have making it to the playoffs this year, if anyone has them making it to the playoffs this year. And so you have to be careful in that regard of making too much of these early season games, but you still need to be paying close attention and to see, because you can get an idea of who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. You can get an idea of who's talented and who's not talented. You can get an idea of what coach has a good feel for his team and what coaching staffs come up with great game plans every week and which ones are being out-coached on a weekly basis. You can get that from watching the first 2 games. And so keep a close eye on these weeks early on in the NFL season, because they tell you a lot of what's to come. It's a great foreshadowing tool for what's to come in the future weeks in the NFL as you move along throughout the course of the season. And with that being said, enjoy this weekend. Enjoy the football. That's going to be an episode for me. You've been in the lab room. I look to have a great week this weekend. And I tell you what, I'm really excited about the slate of games, and I can't wait to see if my predictions, in fact, are correct. And so you'll see me again Monday going over these games, going over my predictions, going over the record, and talking about these games in depth. And we're going to have a whole new lineup of programming for you next week. It's going to be different. It's going to be fun. It's going to be innovative. And we're going to have an absolute blast doing this show. So stay tuned. I ask that you come back and join me next week as this show really starts to take off, and we'll have a lot of fun moving forward. And so enjoy the weekend and all the games. You can email me in the inbox at inthelabroom@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook. Like me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at inthelabroom. It's the Twitter handle. Enjoy the festivities this weekend. I'll be in front of my 2 TV screens, eyeballs glued to them, and taking notes vigorously, watching to see what these teams do. And I'll come back and report to you what I saw, and we'll go at it again and do it all over again next week. I'll see you then. Have a good weekend. Same time, same place. Enjoy the weekend.